Hold up. If you're heading to the grocery store this week, you need to hear this first. Because what I'm about to tell you might completely change your shopping list. Look, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but some of your favorite grocery items, they're literally disappearing from shelves right now. And by the end of June, well, let's just say you might be staring at a lot of empty spots where your go-to products used to be. Now, I know what you're thinking. Come on, it can't be that bad, right? But here's the thing. It's not just your imagination. Those empty shelves you've been noticing, they're about to get a whole lot emptier. Just this week, major retailers started warning customers about serious supply chain disruptions. We're talking about real shortages hitting real stores. And the crazy part? Most people have no clue what's coming. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break down exactly which 12 items you need to grab now, before they're gone. Because trust me, you don't want to be the person standing in an empty aisle wondering why nobody warned you. Stick around because this could literally save you from some serious grocery store heartbreak. Cereals. The breakfast shock. All right, let's start with number 1. And honestly, this one's gonna hurt. We're talking about cereals. Yeah, your morning Cheerios, your kids' Lucky Charms, even that fancy granola you splurge on. Here's the crazy part. The UN is literally predicting that cereal and corn will start running out next year. I'm not talking about a little price bump here. We're talking about actual shortages. And get this, it's already happening. General Mills just confirmed that Fiber One cereals are experiencing major supply issues right now. They're apologizing to customers because the shelves are literally empty where your cereal used to be. But here's what's really wild. Global cereal trade contracted by nearly 7% this year. Think about that for a second. That's millions of tons of cereal that just didn't make it to stores. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so maybe I'll just switch brands. But here's the thing. This isn't a brand problem. This is a corn problem. And corn? That's basically the backbone of the entire cereal industry. I mean, look at what happened to Kellogg's already. They've been dealing with supply disruptions for months. And when the biggest cereal company in the world can't keep up, that's when you know we're in trouble. So if you're one of those people who needs their morning bowl of cereal to function, and let's be honest, most of us are, you might want to grab an extra box or two this week. Because come June, your favorite cereal aisle might look pretty bare. Coffee. All right, let's talk about something that's going to hurt. And I mean, really hurt. Your morning coffee. Now, I don't know about you, but my day literally doesn't start until I've had that first sip. But here's the thing that's going to shock you. Coffee prices have more than doubled in the past year. We're talking about Arabica hitting over $4 per pound for the first time ever. That's insane, right? But wait, it gets worse. If your favorite coffee beans have already vanished from shelves, don't panic, they'll be back. The bad news? They're going to be up to 25% more expensive. 25%. That's like your $12 bag of coffee suddenly costing $15. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck is going on? Well, buckle up because this story is wild. Brazil and Vietnam, the world's 2 biggest coffee producers, are dealing with the worst droughts in decades. We're talking about Brazil facing its most severe drought in 70 years. 70 years. Think about that for a second. These coffee plants are literally dying of thirst. And here's the scary part. Brazil's been dealing with the driest weather since 1981, and it's happening right during the flowering stage when coffee trees are most vulnerable. It's like, imagine trying to grow a garden during a desert heat wave. It's just not happening. But Vietnam? Oh man, Vietnam got hit from both sides. First, they had severe droughts, then they got slammed with heavier than usual rains. It's like Mother Nature decided to play the world's worst practical joke on coffee farmers. And you know what the really frustrating part is? Brazil's coffee reserves are now 65% lower than expected. 65%. That's not just a little shortage. That's a full-blown crisis. So what does this mean for you? Well, Coffee prices are still 55% higher than they were a year ago, and honestly, they're not coming down anytime soon. Even experts who think prices might drop by the end of the year admit that until then, the entire coffee industry is in for a world of pain. Look, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but if you're a coffee lover like me, you might want to stock up now. Because by the end of June, your favorite blend might either be gone or cost you an arm and a leg. Orange juice. All right, number 3 on our list. And this one's gonna hurt. Orange juice. Yeah, I know. Who doesn't love a good glass of OJ in the morning, right? Well, get ready for some seriously bad news. Here's the thing that's absolutely crazy. Florida's orange crop just hit a 95-year low. Let me say that again. 95 years. We're talking about the smallest orange harvest since before World War II. Like, your great-grandparents probably had more orange juice options than we're gonna have. But here's where it gets really wild. The USDA is projecting just over 11.5 million boxes of oranges this season. That's a 30% drop from last year alone. 30%. Imagine if your paycheck suddenly dropped by 30%. That's basically what happened to America's orange supply. And the reason? Well, it's like Mother Nature decided to throw every possible disaster at Florida's orange groves. Hurricane damage alone caused between $1.50 to $2 billion in agricultural losses. Plus, there's this nasty citrus disease that's been spreading through the groves like wildfire. Now here's the part that's going to make you want to cry. A 12-ounce bottle of orange juice that cost $2.30 back in 2020? It's now hitting $4.50 in 2025. That's literally double. Your morning OJ is now more expensive than your fancy coffee. And if you think it's bad now, just wait. Orange juice prices have already jumped nearly 20% just in the past month. By the end of June, you might be looking at $6 or $7 for a small bottle of orange juice. At that point, you're basically drinking liquid gold. So if you're an orange juice person, and I mean, who isn't? You might want to stock up now, because once those shelves go empty, they're going to stay empty for a while. Trust me on this one. Berries. Labor shortages on farms. All right, number 4 is going to blow your mind. And honestly, it kind of broke my heart when I was researching this. We're talking about berries. You know, those little bursts of happiness that make your morning cereal actually worth eating. Here's the shocking part. Grocery stores are literally putting up signs saying they can't honor promised sales on blueberries due to weather issues. And get this, Whole Foods? They had no blueberries at all. Zero. Nada. Just empty spaces where those little blue gems used to be. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes, and this is where it gets crazy. Almost 80% of strawberry growers are reporting labor shortages during the entire berry season. We're not talking about a few missing workers here and there. We're talking about a full-blown crisis. Picture this. California's Monterey County alone needs about 55,000 migrant workers for harvest season starting in late April. But here's the kicker. Even the threat of deportation could deter many from coming to work, potentially leaving strawberries, lettuce, and other crops to literally wither in the fields. And if you think I'm being dramatic, one farmer was literally forced to abandon his berry crops entirely, just to make sure he could harvest enough zucchini for his Costco contract. He had to choose between berries and squash. That's not farming, that's survival mode. The numbers are absolutely insane too. In 2024, the U.S. agricultural industry needed approximately 2.4 million more farm workers, and this labor gap is expected to grow in 2025. 2.4 million workers. That's like the entire population of Houston just missing from our farms. So what does this mean for your grocery cart? Well, Mexican blueberry output is expected to drop by about 9% in 2025. And Mexico usually fills in when our domestic supplies run low. Both fresh and frozen berries are being impacted, leading to reduced availability and higher prices. The crazy thing is, workers are actually leaving strawberry farms to go harvest blueberries because the wage rate is better and the work is somewhat easier. So, we've got farms competing against each other for the same workers. It's like musical chairs, but with fruit. If you see berries in the store right now, any berries, grab them, because at the rate we're going, your smoothie bowls might start looking pretty sad by summer's end. 5. Apples, seasonal worker issues. All right, now here's where things get really crazy. Apples? Yeah, I know. Apples seem so basic, right? Like, how can we run out of apples? Well, buckle up because this story is going to blow your mind. Picture this. You're driving through Washington State, where like 60% of America's apples come from. Beautiful orchards everywhere, trees loaded with fruit. Looks perfect, right? But here's the shocking part. Those apples are literally rotting on the trees because there's nobody to pick them. I'm not kidding. We're talking about entire orchards, millions of pounds of perfectly good apples, just hanging there, going to waste. And it's not because farmers don't want to harvest them. It's because the U.S. agricultural industry needed approximately 2.4 million more farm workers in 2024, and this labor gap is expected to grow in 2025. Now, here's what's really wild about this whole situation. Decades ago, whole families of migrant farm workers would travel around the U.S. following seasonal work. But now, those workers are aging out, and their kids are finding opportunities in other sectors. The traditional follow-the-crop workers, they made up 24% of farm workers back in the 90s, but now they're down to just 9%. So what's happening is, farmers are literally watching their crops die. Apple growers are having to completely update their cultivation and harvest practices just to stay profitable because they can't find enough people to pick the fruit. And here's the kicker. Even when they do find workers, it's getting crazy expensive. Real farm wages have been increasing for years, and labor shortages during harvest seasons have gotten worse since the 2000s. So farmers are paying more for fewer workers who can harvest less fruit. The result? Those beautiful Honeycrisp and Gala apples you love? They're becoming a luxury item. And by the end of June, when the current supply runs out and the new harvest season is still months away, well, you might be staring at some pretty empty produce bins. The crazy part is, this isn't just about apples. This same labor crisis is hitting every single crop that needs human hands to harvest. But apples? They're one of the hardest hit because you literally cannot machine pick a perfect apple without bruising it. It takes skilled human hands, and those hands, they're just not there anymore. 6. Fresh vegetables. Harvest disruptions. All right, let's talk about fresh vegetables, and honestly, this one's going to make you pretty mad. Because what's happening right now in California's farmlands, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Picture this. You know those beautiful fields of lettuce, broccoli, and spinach that feed most of America? Well, fear of deportation has led to a sharp drop in farm worker attendance across California's agricultural heartland, leaving crops unharvested. We're talking about literally this month, January 2025. And here's the part that'll really get you. Farmers have been forced to watch their produce rot in the fields. Yeah, you heard that right. Perfect vegetables, ready to be picked, just sitting there going bad. While we're all complaining about grocery prices. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, but how does this affect me? Well, buckle up because Mexico supplied 69% of fresh vegetable imports to the United States. So when our domestic production crashes and our imports get hit with tariffs, that's a double whammy you definitely don't want to face. But wait, it gets worse. California farmers are failing to find enough people to pick fruits and vegetables and harvest other crops, and they're literally changing what they grow because they can't find workers. Less labor-intensive crops mean fewer fresh vegetables for us. The crazy part. If the farm labor supply is reduced too rapidly, many farms will not be able to adapt to the labor supply shock. The consequences will be higher production costs, reduced domestic production of labor-intensive crops such as fresh fruits and vegetables. So here's what you need to grab now. Leafy greens like spinach and lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower, bell peppers, and honestly, any fresh vegetable you see, that looks good. Because by June, you might be paying double if you can find them at all. Trust me, that sad, wilted lettuce you're avoiding right now, It's gonna look pretty appealing when the fresh stuff disappears. Seafood. All right, here's where things get really crazy. And honestly, a little heartbreaking. We're talking about seafood. You know, that salmon you love grilling on weekends, those shrimp you throw in your pasta, even that affordable tilapia you rely on for quick weeknight dinners. So here's what just happened. And I'm not even kidding about this. The government just slapped a massive 25% tariff on seafood coming from Canada and Mexico. But wait, it gets worse. Vietnam? 46% tariff. India? 26%. Thailand? 36%. Indonesia? 32%. Now you might be thinking, okay, so what? I'll just buy American seafood. But here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. 94% of the shrimp we eat in America comes from imports. More than 90% of that comes from just 4 countries, and they're all getting hit with these crazy tariffs. Let me put this in perspective for you. Remember when gas prices went up and everyone freaked out? Well, imagine that, but with your favorite seafood. Even domestic shrimp prices are driven by imports, so these tariffs are going to jack up prices on Gulf Coast shrimp too. And here's the really messed up part. Fresh shellfish prices already jumped 6.9% just last month. That was before these new tariffs kicked in. So we're talking about prices that were already climbing, now going absolutely through the roof. I talked to a guy at my local grocery store last week, and he told me something that gave me chills. He said, "We're already seeing customers skip the seafood section entirely, and that was when prices were still reasonable. People are already switching to canned and shelf-stable seafood because they can't afford the fresh stuff. But guess what? Even those prices jumped 12.4% recently. So if you love seafood, if your kids love fish sticks, if you're trying to eat healthy with salmon and shrimp, you need to stock up now, because by the end of June, you might be looking at empty seafood cases or prices that'll make your wallet cry. I'm not trying to scare you, but this is happening right now. Experts are warning that seafood prices are going to be among the first to spike because of these tariffs, and once those supply chains get disrupted, it takes months, sometimes years, to get them back to normal. 8. Cheese, the shocking reality behind your favorite dairy aisle. All right, let's talk about cheese. And trust me, this one's going to hit different. You know that fancy cheese section you love browsing through? Yeah, well, it's about to look a whole lot emptier. Here's the deal, and this is where it gets really crazy. We're looking at a 20% tariff on cheeses from European countries, and Switzerland? They got slapped with a massive 31% duty. I mean, Swiss cheese with a 31% tax? That's insane. But here's what's really wild. Cheese prices have already jumped 10 to 12% year on year, and this is just the beginning. We're talking about your everyday cheddar, your weekend brie, that Parmesan you splurge on for pasta night. Everything's getting more expensive. Now, here's the part that'll blow your mind. The European Union's milk production is projected to decline by 0.2% in 2025 due to shrinking cow herds. So we've got less milk being produced, which means less cheese being made, right when demand is actually going UP. And get this, the on-again, off-again import duties have cheesemakers, importers, and retailers completely unable to make key business decisions. Imagine running a cheese shop and having no clue what your costs will be next month. It's chaos. So, what does this mean for you? Well, that $8 block of aged cheddar you've been eyeing? It might be $10 next week. That imported Gouda you love? Good luck finding it. And if you do, your wallet's gonna feel it. Look, I'm not saying hoard cheese like it's the apocalypse, but if there's a particular cheese you can't live without, maybe grab an extra block this week, because by the end of June, you might be staring at a very sad, very empty cheese section, wondering where all the good stuff went. 9. Nuts. Trade war effects. All right, here's where things get really crazy. And honestly, this one shocked me the most. We're talking about nuts here. Almonds, pistachios, walnuts. You know, those expensive little snacks that are already hurting your wallet? Well, buckle up, because they're about to get way worse. So here's the deal. The US just slapped massive tariffs. We're talking 60% to 100% on goods going to China. And guess what? China's not just sitting there taking it. They're firing back with their own tariffs on American nuts. And here's the kicker. It's costing exporters an extra dollar per pound just because of these tariffs. Think about that for a second. If you're paying $3 for almonds now, that's like a 30% price increase right there. But wait, it gets worse. China's basically giving the US the cold shoulder and buying their almonds from Australia instead. So all those California almond farmers, they're scrambling to find new buyers while their nuts are sitting in warehouses. And pistachios? Oh man. There's already a pistachio shortage happening right now in 2025, and this trade war is making it 10 times worse. UC Davis researchers are saying California could lose $6 billion a year from this mess, with pistachios getting hit the hardest. You know what's wild? All that Dubai chocolate TikTok craze with pistachios? It's actually making the shortage even worse because everyone's going crazy for pistachio-filled chocolate. So you've got social media trends competing with trade wars for the same nuts. Here's what this means for you at the grocery store. Those little bags of mixed nuts, your favorite trail mix, even that fancy almond butter you love, they're all about to either disappear or cost you an arm and a leg. The US produces over 80% of the world's almonds and 60% of pistachios, so when our exports get messed up, it hits everyone, including us. The crazy part is, this isn't some distant problem. This is happening right now, and by the end of June, you're gonna feel it every time you walk down the snack aisle. Pasta. Supply chain disruptions. All right, let's talk about number 10, and honestly, this one might hit you right in the feels. We're talking about pasta here, people. Pasta. I mean, come on. Pasta is like the ultimate comfort food, right? It's cheap, it's filling, and let's be real. It's probably saved your dinner plans more times than you can count. But here's the kicker. Independent grocers are already anticipating potential shortages in products like pasta, bread, and baked goods due to supply chain disruptions. Now you might be thinking, wait, what? How do you mess up pasta? It's literally just wheat and water. But that's exactly the problem. See, most people don't realize that a huge chunk of our pasta comes from, drumroll please, imported wheat. And guess what's happening to imports right now? Yeah, they're getting slammed. Here's what's really wild. The UN is predicting that cereal and corn will start running out, and we're likely to see more empty grocery store shelves by the end of this summer. And wheat? It's in the same boat. The supply chain issues aren't just affecting fancy imported stuff anymore. They're hitting the basics. I was at the store just last week, and I kid you not, the pasta aisle looked like a tornado hit it. Half the shelves were empty, and the stuff that was there, the prices made my jaw drop. We're talking about what used to be a 99-cent box of spaghetti now costing almost $3. And here's the really scary part. Transportation issues are affecting the cereal industry, which means the same trucks that deliver your pasta are the same ones struggling to get products to stores. It's like a domino effect, you know? So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're someone who relies on pasta for those quick weeknight dinners, and let's face it, who doesn't? You might want to stock up now, because by the time July rolls around, finding your favorite brand might be like hunting for a needle in a haystack. The bottom line? Don't sleep on this one. Grab a few extra boxes next time you're out because trust me, you'd rather have too much pasta than be stuck eating. I don't know. Plain rice for dinner every night. 11. Bread. The daily essential. That's about to disappear. All right, number 11 is going to hit you right in the feels because we're talking about bread. Yeah, I know, bread. The thing that's literally been on dinner tables for thousands of years. But here's where it gets crazy. The UN is actually predicting that cereal and corn will start running out this year. And guess what bread is made from? You got it. Wheat, which is part of that whole cereal grain family. Now, I was at my local grocery store just last week, and I noticed something weird. The bread aisle, it was like half empty. And I'm not talking about the fancy artisan stuff. I'm talking about regular sandwich bread, hot dog buns, even those cheap store-brand loaves that used to be everywhere. Here's what's happening behind the scenes. Supply chain disruptions and transportation issues are seriously affecting the cereal industry. Think about it. Wheat has to get from farms to processing plants, then to bakeries, then to your store. That's a lot of moving parts, and right now, those parts aren't moving so smoothly. And it's not just about the wheat itself. The packaging, the delivery trucks, even the workers in the bakeries. Everything's being hit at once. So when you see that empty spot where your favorite sandwich bread used to be, now you know why. 1 2. Cooking oils. The kitchen staple. Nobody saw coming. And finally, number 12. This one's gonna shock you because most people don't even think about it until it's gone. We're talking about cooking oils. Now, I bet you're thinking, really? Cooking oil? But listen to this. Vegetable fats and oils are some of the most common items imported to the US from China. And with all these trade tensions going on right now, yeah, that's becoming a huge problem. Here's something that happened to my neighbor just 2 days ago. She went to 3 different stores looking for her regular vegetable oil. 3 stores. And each time, she found maybe 1 or 2 bottles left, and they were priced way higher than usual. Businesses are passing down those higher tariff costs to consumers, which means even if you do find cooking oil, you're going to pay through the nose for it. We're talking about something that used to cost maybe $3 now, running you $6 or $7, if you can find it at all. And here's the kicker. Cooking oil isn't just for frying stuff. It's in salad dressings, it's used in baking, it's literally in half the processed foods on grocery shelves. So when cooking oil gets scarce, it creates this domino effect that hits way more products than you'd expect. The worst part? Most people don't stock up on cooking oil because, let's be honest, how often do you think about it? But right now, with supply chain issues already hitting stores, this is one of those items you definitely want to grab an extra bottle or two of while you still can. So you're probably wondering, how did we get here? Well, it's like a perfect storm of bad timing, honestly. First off, we've got these trade tensions that are absolutely brutal right now. Major retailers are warning about empty shelves because of tariffs, and businesses are passing those costs straight to us. When it costs more to import stuff, guess who pays? Yeah, we do. Then there's the weather. And I'm not just talking about a few rainy days. Hurricane damage has seriously messed up citrus production, and climate change is making farming way more unpredictable than it used to be. But here's the part that really gets me. Farms are struggling with serious labor shortages because they rely heavily on migrant workers for harvesting. No workers means crops just sit there rotting in the fields. It's heartbreaking, honestly. And our supply chain? It's still trying to bounce back from everything that's happened. We're already seeing sharp declines in freight from China, which means less stuff making it to our stores. All right, so here's the deal. I'm not telling you to go crazy and buy 50 loaves of bread, okay? That's not what we're doing here. But you can stock up smart. Grab an extra bag of coffee when you see it. Pick up a few cans of that seafood you like. Get a backup bottle of cooking oil. Stuff like that. Also, be flexible with your brands. If your usual cereal isn't there, try something else. Trust me, your taste buds will survive. And here's a pro tip. Shop local when you can. That farmer's market down the street, they're not dealing with the same import issues as the big chains. Plus, you're supporting your community, which feels pretty good. The key is just being smart about it. Don't panic, but don't ignore it either. Look, I know this sounds scary, and honestly, it kind of is. We're looking at some serious changes in how we shop and what we can find on shelves. But here's the thing, knowledge is power. Now that you know what's coming, you can actually do something about it. You're ahead of the game. Do me a favor. Share this with your friends, your family, anyone who might need to know. Because the last thing I want is for good people to get caught off guard by this stuff. At the end of the day, it's better to be prepared and not need it than to need it and not be prepared. Stay smart, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.